Hi, it's Hallie, the original Rev Thing, talk show without guests from Instagram, now on YouTube with the Friday evening edition, the week in review. Yes, it has been a week, hasn't it? Oh, yes, indeed, it's been a week in our lives and in our world. Yes, indeed. Here, recently I've been noticing the change of the season as we go into autumn, and particularly regarding the birds. The birds leave, especially this area, they leave fairly early, like in August, most of the birds have already gone. And one bird in particular that I did a video clip on this week, the whippoorwill, uh, speaks to us all about the interconnection of life and how delicate it is and how precious it is and how we need to, be there to work together for the good of life, for the good of our life and the good of life here on Earth. And the whippoorwill population has greatly decreased. It was a very common bird on the east coast of the United States with a very distinctive song. But over the last few years, their population has greatly reduced. And I've noticed the bird population in general is greatly reduced, and I wonder if it's related to the same reason the whippoorwill population is reduced, and that has to do with the insect population being reduced. Yeah, and it speaks to us of the food chain. And when the food chain is affected at one area, the lower areas, right, it has an effect going up the food chain. And so when the insect population is depleted to a point that the protein source, the primary protein source of many birds, is no longer there, that affects the population of the birds. And the whippoorwill is one clear example, but I wonder what other species may be being affected, and if that has something to do with the lesser amount of birds that I see. I have to do a little bit more research into that. It's important. Because birds are, they're free. They're born to the sky. They really speak to us about the reality of nature. We have our borders, our human-made borders that we like to draw. Birds pay no attention to it because they're not natural borders. It's not part of the natural order. And it's important for us to recognize that. Yeah, I think it is important to us because we create these borders as if they really separate us, but they don't. And the birds are one example. Another example is flu. Yes, it's time for your flu vaccine, by the way. It's time to go get your flu vaccine. They are available. If they're available, get them. But the flu is a great example of how, circles the whole earth, doesn't pay any attention to borders, doesn't care about customs, goes where it wants. And that's that's the reality of the natural world. And speaks to us of our need to work together for the common good, our need to be united, right? Especially like in a day and age where we are so divided in so many ways, and there are many voices today that want to divide us. And what we need to do is amplify the voices that are calling us to unity. We need to amplify those voices that are calling us to unity. And by unity, I don't mean conformity, because conformity, that's not unity. Conformity, the idea that everyone's going to think the same way or going to feel the same way about everything, that's unrealistic. That's never going to happen. Unity, meaning the underlying recognition of our need for one another, our fundamental need for one another in order to survive, in order to thrive as a people, as a community, as a nation, as a globe, working together uh, and recognizing the gifts that we all bring to the table and that we need each other's gifts. That's what community is. So we need to amplify the voices that are calling for true unity, right? Respecting, our diversity, respecting the fact that we don't all think the same or feel the same, but recognizing that we have a common purpose, a common good, which is life, to encourage life. That's what it's all about, right? That's what it's all about, life. So, yeah, we need to have voices we need to amplify voices that speak to the unity of our world as a need for cooperation and for the common good. Speaking of which, right, some disturbing news, I think, in the AI world and the internet world. Recently, I heard a report that Albania, the country of Albania, has proposed having a minister, a governmental minister that is actually an AI, it's artificial intelligence. That's frightening, and I don't think enough of us have a real understanding of what AI is or isn't, and to entrust government office to something that's not human and that doesn't have any accountability, or it's not a good idea. It's really not, and there's so many questions with the whole internet thing. Anyway, and the chat GPT and the problems that it's creating for a lot of people, emotional problems that it's creating in this whole, the bubbles that these little, what do they refer to them as? Internet bubbles? Is that what the term is? Where people live in this little world where everybody agrees with you or doesn't agree with you, and it amplifies the internal voices. It could be good or it could not be so good. So that's another thing we really need to look at. And there's this rush to just push through AI without any regulation or without any moderation or regulations by us, the human beings, and our government, which supposedly represents our interests, is concerning. I think that's something that we need to be aware of. Yeah, yeah. I know there's so many things we have to be aware of. I know it's tiring, but we need to be aware of these things because hiding our head in the sand like an ostrich, that doesn't benefit us, and it doesn't benefit our children or the future generations. And I think that's one of the important things, if not the most important thing, in recognizing all of this, is the future generations. And what does it say? What do we leave for them? What does it say to them about how we feel about them? It's in some ways like with the Epstein, whatever you want to call it, the Epstein issue. It's just these victims have been left out to dry, and it's time that it be addressed and they be listened to, and justice be served. Yeah, I know it's all connected. It is. This crazy, overwhelming world. I know. We long for a simpler time. I'm not sure if there ever was a simpler time, but there certainly was a time where community and communication was something that was more open and more valued. And I think that we need to open lines of communication, both in feeling free to speak our truth, but also a willingness to listen to the truth of others. Sometimes can be difficult, but it's important if we're going to seek to really engage each other. It means we have to be willing to speak, but also to listen. Right, Brother Crow? Well, it's been a nice little chat, and it has been a whirlwind of a week, I know. Pray for the families of the children who were injured in the recent school shooting in Colorado, and for all of those who are victims of gun violence, and especially those who are victims of gun violence that we call war, and the various different names that we give to gun violence under the umbrella of war, because it's all one and the same. So, have a good restful weekend. Give me a like if you would. If you haven't followed me yet, please hit the follow button. see you soon.